Exam AZ-500, Microsoft Security Technologies, Simulation Questions, Part 1. Hello, my name is Ciolito Rodriguez, and in this series of videos, I am going to go over many questions similar to what might come up in the exam AZ-500. The AZ-500 exam is composed of four domains. Domain 1 is manage identity and access, and this is worth from 30 to 35% of the questions. Domain 2 is implement platform protection, and this is worth from 15 to 20%. Domain 4 is manage security operations, and this is worth from 25 to 30%. And finally, domain 4 is secure data and applications, and this domain is worth from 25 to 30%. The first domain set of questions that we are going to go over is domain 1, manage identity and access. And because there are many questions in this domain, we are going to divide these sections into smaller batches of questions, hopefully around 20 questions per video. Question number 1. The Dream Suites Corporation has offices in New York, Los Angeles, and London. And the IP range for each location is shown in the table below. So we'll just look at the IP addresses there and look at this is obviously about multi-factor authentication, and so these are the trusted locations. So because these are internal and trusted locations, then basically these locations will be skipped for multi-factor authentication. And this is a common scenario in most companies. Okay. Now, when it comes to verification options, these are, the different verification options that you can use. In this case, this company is using call to phone. So basically mean that you can choose, to have a call to your phone to verify. The text message to phone is not selected, which is actually one of the most popular methods. So just, you take that into consideration for the answer for this question. And the other choice is notification through a mobile app. So instead of getting a call to a phone, you could also get a notification through a mobile app, like the Microsoft Authenticator, for example. Microsoft has this app. And the other one says verification code from mobile app or hardware token. That's another option. And another option, it says remember multi-factor authentication, and then the option is selected to allow users to remember multi-factor authentication and multi-factor authentication on devices that they trust. See, days before device must be re-authenticated 14. So in other words, that if a device gets authenticated, then that device will be remembered for 14 days. And you can set this up from 1 through 60. Now, the question based on that scenario says, which of the following statement is not correct? And this is a tricky question, because remember, the question is, which is not correct? So to kind of go through a question like this, it's easy to see which of these are correct, and then the one that is not correct, then you would choose that one. The correct answer here is answer B. Members of the IT department authenticating from home will be prompted to verify authentication using a PIN received from a text message. And so the reason that this is not correct is because remember when we were going over the authentication methods, the option to receive a PIN from a text message was actually not disabled. So this is not correct. The other questions are correct. And then here's some more explanation if you want to go over the reason why this is the correct answer. Question number 2. The security department has mandated that all users in the sales department should be part of a dynamic group in order to ensure that access to line of business applications is automated. When users are initially provisioned, all relevant AD properties of the user account are configured based on which department they are part of. You are configuring a new dynamic group within the Azure portal as shown below. Okay, so property account enable equals sales. Well, I can see over here that there is a problem with this. So we are talking about the department. So this property, instead of saying account enable, should say department. But we'll see that in a second. So the question is what must be changed in order to meet the requirements. So, and based what we just went through in the in the figure over there, we should probably know what the answer is. So, if you guessed question B, rather answer B is the correct answer. Change the property to department. So, the property field must be changed from account enabled to department. Because this option will specify that any user that has sales contained within the department attribute on their user account will be automatically added to the new group. Question number 3. You need to configure permission scopes for a new a web-based lead generation application called Lead Gen that is registered within the Dream Suite directory. All certificates must be obtained on behalf of the user once a user signs into the Lead Gen application. Before proceeding, what API permission must be configured in order to meet the security requirement? And well, this should be an easy question. Out of all these options over here, Key Vault is the place that is used to store certificates on behalf of a user. So again, the answer is Key Vault. Azure Key Vault is a service that manages secrets, keys, and certificates that are contained in Key Vault. This permission allows certificates to be obtained on behalf of the user once a user signs into the Lead Gen application from the Key Vault. None of the other answers is correct. Question number 4. You are the administrator of the Mutex Corporation. You want to prevent the accidental deletion of a storage account. You want to do that through ARM template configuration, which built-in RBAC role membership is required. Choose all that apply. Okay. The correct answers here are A, you need to be a member of the user access administrator, or C, you need to be a member of the owners group or role rather. So you should have membership in either the owner or user access administrator roles, RBAC roles to configure locks. So you must have access to what is called the Microsoft authorization / asterisk, or the Microsoft authorization locks wildcard, right? Actions if you want to create or delete management locks. That permission is included in both the owner and the user access administrator RBAC roles. Question number 5. The Metroil Corporation requires that administrators have more administrative control of all users and their laptops within Los Angeles. The security department has stated that dynamic groups should be used whenever possible. You are creating a new group for user laptops within Los Angeles in the Azure portal. So we created a group. So the user, then the group should be assigned dynamic. That means that the answer should be the dynamic device. So the dynamic device option allows you to specify rules to add devices to the group automatically. This option will meet the requirement as it allows you to add a dynamic query to add all devices that belong to users within Los Angeles to the group. Question number 6. You want more granular administrative control in your Azure Active Directory. You delegate the help desk administrator role to regional support specialists. You want those regional support specialists to manage users only in the region that they support. You need to create administrative units so that the scope of the help desk administrator role is limited to one or more administrative units. Which of the following tools can you use to create administrative units? Choose all that apply. The correct answers here are B, Microsoft Graph, and D, Powershell. So you can create an administrative unit using the Azure portal, Powershell, or Microsoft Graph. You would use the post function in Microsoft Graph to create an administrative unit, and here's an example how you would do that. Now, to create an administrative unit using the Azure portal, you choose administrative units under the Azure Active Directory. So once you go to the portal.azure.com, you go to Azure Active Directory, and then in the Azure Active Directory blade, you choose administrative units, and then you click on add, and then you create your units. And this is similar to what an organizational unit is in a Active Directory on-prem. Sort of. It's, this is mainly for organization purposes. Obviously, on-prem, you can use group policy options, stuff like that, which is something that you cannot use on Microsoft Azure here. So once this is still properties of the when you add the administrative unit. Here, this is the name that we chose, and then you when you do the assignments, you basically add the people that you want to be a member of this administrative units. You can also use PowerShell command list to create an administrative unit. So the following command would do that. First of all, you would need to connect to Azure with connect-Azure AD, and then you would use the command new-Azure ADMS administrative unit the description, and then you put the name of the administrative unit, the display name that you wanted to give, and basically that's it. Now, you cannot use the transactional SQL statement to create administrative unit, of course, so that's a gotcha over there. Those SQL commands can create objects in SQL Server, but obviously not in Azure. Now, at the time of this writing, this was like in 2020, you cannot use the Azure CLI to create an administrative unit. I'm pretty sure that that's going to be a function. Actually, it may already be. I don't believe it's there, but Microsoft Azure, it's changing constantly, and something that you don't have the capability today, tomorrow you might. So Microsoft is constantly improving Microsoft Azure. Question number 7, you need to plan the MFA authentication method for a group of users that often go days at a time without consistent cellular or data access on their mobile phones. Which verification option should be used in order to meet the requirements? The correct answer here is D, verification code from mobile app or hardware token. The verification code from a mobile app or hardware token option will use the Microsoft Authenticator app to generate a new OAuth verification code that can be used to enter into the login screen. The Microsoft Authenticator app can generate a verification code without data or cellular signal. This option will work as the mobile device does not need to have a data or cellular signal to generate a verification code through the Microsoft Authenticator app. So, and this is a great case in let's say that you are in an area in which the cellular phone signals is very poor, and you need to connect to your environment. You need to make sure that you have connection to your environment. So in this case, it doesn't matter that the phone doesn't have signal, that you don't have any cellular signal where you are, if you use the verification code. And that's why it's important to use the mobile app. This is another benefit. First of all, it's also a lot more secure than using the traditional SMS message that we use for MFA. I personally love the mobile app, the Microsoft Authenticator app, and I try to use it whenever possible. Obviously, there are some cases in which the application that you use for MFA obviously must support that method. But if it does support it, I mean, you could also use the Google Authenticator app. But any app that you use for MFA, it's generally more secure than using the traditional SMS text messages. Question 8. Your company has a specific requirements for permissions that are not covered by the built-in roles. They plan to create new custom roles in Azure Active Directory. Which of the following statements are true concerning creating custom roles in Azure AD? Choose 2. The correct choices here are actually, yes. So the correct choices here are B, you must have an Azure AD Premium P1 or P2 license, and C, to create a custom role, you must be a global administrator or a privileged role administrator. So those are the correct answer for this question here. And there are several methods of how to create those roles. Here is the new dash Azure ADMS role definition commandlet that can be used to create a custom role name, let's say new text application support administrator in this case. And another thing is, we just talked about that the custom roles are not enabled by default for every Azure AD because they are available only in the Azure AD Premium P 1 or 2. So if you just have, let's say, Microsoft Exchange Online and you have the basic Microsoft Azure, then you don't have access to do this. Question number 9, as an Azure architect, you are required to design the strategy for Azure roles that will be used in your new tenant. Systems administrators who are new to Azure are not sure what the differences are between Azure RBAC roles and Azure AD administrator roles. Which statements are true for Azure RBAC roles? Choose 3. The correct choices here are C. RBAC roles manage access to Azure resources. D. A scope can be specified at multiple levels, subscription, resource group, and resource, for example. And F. Role information can be accessed in the Azure CLI. Question number 10, and this is going to be the last question of this batch. I think that originally I said that it was going to be a series of like 20 questions, but actually I meant to say that to keep these videos kind of short, I'm just going to do 20 questions, 10 questions at a time. So question 10. You are developing a new web-based lead generation application called Lead Gen that is registered within the Nutanix Azure Active Directory. You need to secure the published APIs for this application to only specific Nutanix Azure resources and users. What should you configure in order to leverage an industry standard authorization scheme for web, desktop, and mobile applications? And the correct answer here is C, OAuth 2.0. OAuth 2.0 is an industry standard for authorization for web, desktop, and mobile applications. You can use OAuth 2.0 within API management to secure published APIs to ensure users can only access the resources that they are entitled to. This option will meet the requirement and secure access to published APIs to only a specific Nutanix Azure resources and users. All right, so we have come to the conclusion of this first batch of questions out of many that will continue. In the next video, we will explore questions related to the same domain, identity management. But in the next batch of questions, we'll go from question 11 to about question 21.